Number 10.
Detroit lost both coordinators who were excellent, lost a couple of their best offensive linemen on the interior. That's an issue. That's why they addressed it in this draft. They've already had injuries in this preseason. And so they're the fourth NFL team to lose both coordinators in the last 25 years. It's hard. Go ask Philadelphia. And especially when they're elite coordinators that get head coaching jobs. So the division's better, lost their coordinators. I have Detroit at number 10.
Yeah, I really wanted to highlight the Detroit Lions here because they're one of my favorite teams to talk about, especially because that fan base is just so passionate, so intense, and I love every moment of it. But I wanted to have a conversation. So if we look at Colin's full top 10 here, now he's been on vacation, so obviously there's been a lot of movement, like the Green Bay Packers getting Micah Parsons and whatnot, the Rashee Rice suspension, all that good stuff. Matthew Stafford's back, and now he's like his back, and then now he's back. So there's been some movement. Terry McLaurin, Washington Commanders, solidifying him, etc., etc., etc. So here's what I want to discuss because it's actually kind of interesting to me. Now, this all depends on who you're talking to and who you're asking. But now, especially with the Green Bay Packers getting Micah Parsons, there is a feeling that this team was actually pretty good last year, but they were injured, they were banged up, and Jordan Love in and out of the lineup. But now that they're going to be healthy, now they got Micah, they're taking a big step forward. The Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams is actually a pretty decent quarterback. Their team was a mess the way it was run, fired the coach, etc. etc. They now got Ben Johnson, who the Detroit Lions know very well is an awesome offensive mind. So there's the feeling that this team now, the Chicago Bears, is going to take a big step forward. Just by virtue of adding Ben Johnson, a competent offensive coach, but also now actually fortifying that O-line, being a more well-rounded team, etc., etc., etc. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this is probably more the biggest question mark, where it's just like, hey, the Vikings really believe in what J.J. McCarthy can be, right? He was a top pick in the NFL, in the draft a couple years ago. Was set up to be the quarterback for the future, but then of course got injured, and then Sam Darnold balled with the Minnesota Vikings, and people believe, well, hey, you know what? Sam Darnold is actually not that good of a quarterback. Like J.J. McCarthy is actually legit. He's going to have a lot of success. He's going to be able to hit the ground running. This team should actually be better with a J.J. McCarthy, which is why they moved on from Sam Darnold in the first place. And now you have the Detroit Lions, where you could make the argument had been, it's not even an argument, like it's just a fact, they had been a top team in the NFL for the last 2 years or so, right? That they had been an absolute force. A team that I think that if you were a fan of any of these other teams and you had to play the Detroit Lions, you were uncomfortable, especially if it was in the playoffs. Even if you believed in your team, whether you're the Chiefs or the Eagles or the Bills or whoever, you're still like, oh man, this team can do anything at any moment. Like this team can wallop a punch. And not only can they wallop a punch, but they're also incredibly brilliant and execute near flawlessly, right? I said throughout the all of last season that they're brawn and brain, that it's really just kind of their team was the perfect encapsulation of their three coaches, really, both coordinators and Dan Campbell. And to me, it just showed. And one of the best ways was against the Dallas Cowboys, when they had that defense just completely unprepared, unfocused, and the Lions knew exactly what they wanted to do, and boom! It was just a beautiful job. And to me, that was like the perfect snapshot of who the Lions not only were but had been. In a lot of ways, you can make the argument for two teams, the Ravens and the Lions in 23. They should have won the Super Bowl. That was their Super Bowl to lose, and that they did lose it. It wasn't that the other teams beat them; they lost their games, right? I think that's. I don't think that's that controversial of a statement. And now we're going to fast forward, because obviously 24, you get decimated with injuries. And I'm always the person that say that injuries matter. Everyone always tries to downplay them. And I'm always the one to kind of emphasize that they have to play a role in something. Now, to be fair, I still think that there needs to be a high degree of nuance, because I even said, listen, that Lions offense did not play well enough that you can't just say, well, if we had a better defense, we win that game. Because it's just like, yeah, that game definitely fundamentally changes, but like, wasn't happy with how that offense looked like in that game either necessarily, right? So like, there does need to be plenty of nuance there, and especially if it's like in one game something, you can say, hey, we're good. Like the Chiefs, for example, their O-line was completely fine, everything was great, and their health was great going up against the Buffalo Bills, and they win, but then they get rocked against the Eagles, and it's like, well, what do you want us to do? We weren't healthy. And it's like, well, wait a second, where's the nuance in this conversation? So whenever you're talking about health, it does need to be applied. But just like the Chiefs would be better if they were 100% healthy, so would the Lions, right? What does that actually look like in practice? Is it the difference between winning a Super Bowl and not? No idea. Nobody does. Anyone who pretends that they do is just straight up lying or way too confident in their own ability to draw conclusions. But it is fascinating to me that it feels as though the conversations around the NFL, outside of maybe the Chiefs right now, again, depending on who you talk to, I think they'll be better than they were last year, but people are making the argument that the Packers are better, that the Rams got better. It's a little bit more slippery because of the back of Matthew Stafford, but if Stafford's actually healthy and can stay upright, people will say that the Rams got better, that the Commanders got better, that the Seahawks got better, that the Broncos got better, that the Ravens got better, that the Bills got better. And then it's always tough with the Eagles because they just won the Super Bowl, so it's hard to say that they got better, but like that they're still within that same boat. And you don't have that same level of momentum about the Detroit Lions. In fact, I think people are a lot more confident saying that the Detroit Lions are taking a step back because they lost their coordinators. And I'm a firm believer that when you lose coordinators as great as Lions have lost, there's going to be consequences for that. There has to be. You can't say that those coaches are great, lose them, and have no repercussions for it. It just doesn't make any logical sense to me. And I'm the type of person who really, really, really incredibly values coaching. That should be very obvious by now. And so when you lose coaching, I'm always going to be like, I got to wait and see. And so to me, it really is going to be so heavily dependent on, did you hire the right guys? And did you hire both positions right? Because even if you just got one right and one kind of right, that changes your team. That absolutely changes your team. So it's just now coming on the back. I'm recording this video right after Micah got traded to the Packers, and now it's just like people are talking about the Packers as like this is the momentum swing. Like boom, like they're winning the division. They're a top Super Bowl contender. They're the ones that have a clear path to at least the NFC Championship game. Boom, 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 boom. They're taking this big swing here. And it's just kind of like, where does that leave the Detroit Lions? Because like I said, for the last couple of years, we talked about how awesome this team has been and how well coached this team has been and how like genuinely scary this team has been. I think we overuse some of those words of like, oh, this is a scary team. And I try to really think about it. It's like, if I have to play this team, if I'm a fan, how do I feel sitting in the stands? Well, we got to play the Lions. Like, am I afraid? Am I uneasy? Am I uncomfortable? And it's like, if I'm uncomfortable, I'm uneasy, then I'm like, that's a scary team. That's a scary team. And that is who the Detroit Lions have been. And yet right now, there's a feeling that they have to prove that again. That they have to show that they haven't lost that. Now, I know a lot of people will say, because it's such a common fan comeback of like, oh, we don't got to prove anything to no one. We know who we are. I promise you, inside that locker room, they need to prove it to themselves right now. Because they've gone a couple years being this scary, legitimately dominant, suffocating team, and they've come up short. And they did have injuries. And so they can't say, we got injured, but now we lost our coordinators. There are question marks. I promise you. You're going to still have a tremendous amount of belief. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you're still going to have the confidence in there. But you still do need that extra encouragement, that extra belief. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I promise you, is still going to somewhat question, what is this offense going to look like a little bit now that Ben Johnson isn't there? Jared Goff is thinking, it is a little bit different now that I don't have Ben Johnson. Well, what exactly does that mean? Doesn't mean that it's doubt. Doesn't mean that it's, insecurity. Doesn't mean that it's lack of belief. But it is different. It is a change. And so there is going to need to be that, like, re-identification with this feeling of we are monsters on this field. That when we step on this field, right, it's like I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. That is really how I define the Detroit Lions these last couple of years, right? They are the Watchmen with Rorschach, and it's just like, you are locked in here with me. And I think, in order for and I think that's an absolutely crucial part of their identity, because that is who Dan Campbell is. And so there's going to need to be like a little bit of a reinvention or a re-getting to know that, because especially with all the injuries, you lost that, and they didn't have it. Their last game of the season, they did not have that. So of course they're going to have to get reacquainted with that. And when you now have 2 new coordinators, you especially need to get reacquainted with that. So it's just going to be really interesting to see that, like, there's going to need to be kind of a reminder for not only inside that locker room, but for the rest of the NFL. Because that's also part of it too. This whole idea of like, oh, we want to be under the radar or this, that. Yes and no. Yes and no. Because I really do believe that this team, like, listen, on one side, nobody fears anybody when you're playing at that level. Like Josh Allen is not afraid of Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson isn't afraid of Joe Burrow. Right? Like, it's just not how I see those guys operating. But once you start to get to the lower level guys, once you start to get to the 2s and 3s and the guys that aren't signing, $200 million contracts, and there's plenty of coaches that have egos that are just to the moon and back, man. But then when you start to have a bunch of these other guys that are filling out the coaching staff, like, they're looking across and they're seeing what they see, and it goes a long way to strike some fear, to have that level of confidence, that level of, we are it. Again, you are locked in here with me. I am not locked in here with you. I do think that there is an effect there. And so I do think that when the Lions come in and they're playing a team like the Carolina Panthers, there's an understanding of, oh God, this team is about to beat us up. And just that feeling, I guarantee you in that locker room, a huge portion of those guys are like, this team's going to beat us up. You have plenty of guys who are like, no, we can win any given Sunday. Let's go. Like, that exists too. But there's definitely plenty of other guys on some of those teams that are just like, oh boy, this is going to be hard. This is going to be a long day. Guarantee it. And so I just think that the Lions letting the NFL know that that's still them, that that's still the identity, that that's still the core and the defining characteristic of this team. I mean, it's kind of perfect that they're a literal lion. Like, I think it's ironically very representative to who they are. I think it does matter. And right now, going into the season, like I said, it feels very much like you can point out to all these other teams where people are very confident that those teams are getting better and taking a step forward. And if we're talking about a level of confidence on a spectrum, people are going to be more confident that the Lions are not taking a step forward, that they're more likely taking a step backwards. So I'm fascinated to see how the Detroit Lions handle that and what ends up actually being the truth. Is adding a Micah and bringing in a Golden and whatnot and a healthy Jordan Love, is that enough for them to solidify themselves as being the true contender of the NFC North? Bringing in Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, is that coach quarterback duo proving to be the top of the NFC North? Kevin O'Connell, considered to be the quarterback whisperer of the NFL currently right now. Him bringing in J.J. McCarthy, is he proven to be, hey, I want a natty. I'm in the NFL now. I'm with Kevin O'Connell. We got a beast of a roster, beast of a defense. We are the team to beat. Like, each team truly kind of says, like, no, I'm Spartacus. And it's just, I just continue to be excited by it all. But it is interesting to see the Detroit Lions kind of back in a position where they need to kind of reassert themselves. And I think that's actually where the Lions would want to be more than anything right now. And I think that's when someone like a Dan Campbell and his voice and his messaging is the most inspiring and the most motivating and hits the hardest. So we'll see. We'll see how it all lands. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions being 10th according to Colin Cowherd's top 10 herd hierarchy? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.